Have you ever struggled with your self-talk, what you tell yourself, especially when things are a little precarious, when things are a little concerning, when you're going through a tough time, when you have something coming up and you're not sure how it's going to go, especially if your mind starts to race a little bit, your thoughts start to race. What if things don't go my way? What if things go wrong? You start to play the what if game in a bad way. Let's say you have a big meeting coming up and you think it might go wrong. You think you might hear no. You think it might get contentious. Or maybe it's something as simple as a dentist appointment coming up and that gives you anxiety. Here's a trick that I've learned and applied over the years, and it's become a habit and it works. You see, your subconscious mind just does what you tell it to. And when we have thoughts that race or spin, it feels out of control. And I know what that feels like. I know what anxiety and stress feel like. We all do. And I know what it's like to let negative thoughts start to really take hold in your mind and feel like you can't do anything about it, but you can. I know I've lost vacations and countless hours due to anxiety and stress and letting negativity spin in my head and playing what if scenarios. And I like to think of myself as a realist, but I'm probably more of a pessimist, which doesn't help. So what I've learned to do over the last several years that's really helped me, that's helped train my subconscious, I want to give you this tip. It takes work, it takes practice. And if you're like me and say, hey, sometimes your mind starts to drift, it starts to race, there's nothing I can do about it, you can. That's the first step, is say I can. Start to train your subconscious. It just wants to protect you. And so when you send it on this journey, because that's a choice we make, believe it or not, even though it feels out of control, we make this choice to send it down this rabbit hole. So here's what I've learned to do with my self-talk. I still get negative thoughts. I still have times when I think this could go poorly. I like to play out scenarios. What could go well? What could go right? So that's the first thing, is for every negative implication or negative result you think about the positive as well. I'd love to tell you, hey, just eliminate the negative thoughts. I don't know how to do that, and I'm working on it. But I have learned something to train my subconscious to ease this anxiety, to ease this stress, and to greatly improve my self-talk. And it hasn't just improved my self-talk to me, but how I talk to other people, how I encourage other people. Here it is. Once I play with these scenarios in my head, let's say I've got a meeting coming up, a proposal, and I start to play out what could go wrong, what could go right, and I start to get a little worried or nervous or anxious about it, I always end this thought process with this phrase: something good will happen. That's it. I know it's simple, but our subconscious mind is, while it's very complicated handling all of these things without us, it's also very simple because it listens to you. It wants to do what you tell it to, and we are giving it messages all the time. Just trust this process. Whenever you go through a scenario in your mind and you start to have some negativity or negative thoughts, end that process with something good will happen. Another way to do it that I've also used is the phrase, everything's going to be all right. Now, you may be thinking, that's just positive thinking that doesn't work. It does work. I'm proof that if you do this over time, it could start to sink in. Does it change the result? I think it starts to have a bearing, but it's certainly over time we can train our subconscious to start to be more positive. And I learned this, everything's going to be all right, from a YouTuber, Camping with Steve, who's gone through some really tough times and shared it on his videos. Over 1 million subscribers, really help people with their stress and anxiety. And he says it all the time, even though he may not fully believe it, that everything's going to be all right. In fact, I have a sign up in my garage to remind me everything's going to be all right. But for me, I got in the habit years and years ago. There's a truck that's going to go by, a garbage truck, so it's going to be a little loud. There it goes. For me, I end this thought process, even when I talk to other people, even when I use somebody as a sounding board to say, here's what's going on in my life and asking for help, I end it with, something good will happen. And now when I talk to other people and they talk about something going on in their life, I tell them, hey, something good will happen. It's going to work out. Everything's going to be all right. Something good will happen. You may not believe this. You don't have to. We're going to train our subconscious to work for us instead of against us. So I want you to try this for the next 30 days. Every time you have a scenario where negative thoughts start to come, especially if they start racing, especially if they feel out of control, but anytime, in that thought process, put a period on it by saying, something good will happen. Because I've been doing this so long now that even when I go through something negative, I start to believe something good will happen because I keep telling myself this. And I start looking at the bright side of things. I start looking at the positive side of things. I look back at my life and the tough times I've been through and how it's worked out in my favor, how sometimes some really tough adversity has helped me. It's helped me get stronger. It's prepared me for other things that have come along in my life. So just try this simple trick. When you have negative thoughts, when you're uncertain, when you've got worry, when you've got stress, and you've got some anxiety, end that process by telling yourself, and make this a habit, even if you don't believe it, just keep telling yourself, something good will happen. I just can't believe how effective this has been in my life. I still have worry, I still have stress, but it's been greatly diminished. I have a different perspective because I've trained my subconscious with this one simple phrase, something good will happen. Give it a shot. If you like messages like this video, subscribe. I'm going to have more messages. And also check out the Limitless Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. That's my podcast. Check it out. Always free. Something good will happen.